We're going old school. What's up, YouTube? How is everybody doing? My name is Matt. Sometimes I go by the Grass Factor. And I am so excited tonight. It's been a long time coming. We are taking a dip back in my personal time. This is revisiting the early days of my career in entrepreneurship, to be honest. Of course, we have Ryan and Ray on the show. Gentlemen, how the hell are y'all doing? Everyone stay out of jail this week. No breaking and entering charges. No vehicular.
No check fraud at a Chase ATM.
Oh God! Oh God! Who did that?
Don't
J-Pink,
follow the TikTok trend. It was a trend on TikTok, and boy, oh boy,
oh no,
it did not end well.
Shit. Jeez,
I feel out of the loop, but sadly, I'm okay with that.
Oh, it's exactly what you think it is. Hey, there's a glitch with Chase ATMs. Go write a $30,000 check from your account to your account, and then immediately withdraw the money. It'll be fine.
Oh God!
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one step above sending iTunes gift cards to a Nigerian prince. But, the person to tell us how to not do all that is here tonight.
Yes.
And I think that's probably that might be in the foreword of his upcoming book of, hey, we're going to tell you all the right things to do with money, but if you do this stuff, we can't have a conversation. Like if you've dispatched iTunes gift cards to somebody in another continent who's then absconded with said gift cards, I don't have time for you. I'm sorry. You're not a good fit. So, we'll start there. If there's anybody that's in that boat, you can click off, just click the X, get off the app on your phone and just, fuck right off. Like we can't do this. But if you have not been in that situation before, Matt, please tell them who our guest is tonight.
We have John Pajak, who I colloquially call John Slayjack. Sir, good to have you on, and I'll give everybody a little rundown. So, I met John. How long has it been? 10 years? 8 years?
Yeah, we're about 10 years now.
It's crazy.
Been a while.
You've heard all of us kind of talk about an old Facebook group called the Professional Lawn Care Applicators Group, and there was a time where there was a lot of value that came out of that, and the reason why so much value was coming out of it, and was because everyone was kind of figuring it out as you went, and then you would share what worked for you, and then what didn't work for you, and then someone would take a risk and what worked for them and what didn't work for them, and again, so many names that we could go on and on about. Russell Skipper, Josh in Nashville, so many different people that we built real relationships with, and still friends with. We see each other in public, and it's like, oh my God, give me a giant hug. Anyway, I'll never forget. I saw John Pajak do the original whiteboards. It's like one of the inspirations for me to actually start doing YouTube videos on a whiteboard. Was he was teaching calculating the actual cost of operating your lawn care business. And it was so granular in the approach that he had it dissected to the point of what it costs to turn on a truck. And I think people have heard me of this before, and I have mentioned your name before talking about this, was how important it was to understand at that level that if you go to work in the morning, what does that cost? To turn on the truck, what does it cost? To leave your driveway, what does it cost? So you can start making better informed decisions that, do I call a rain day or do I not call a rain day? Do I have everyone come into the office and just see if we can squeak it out? Or is it just going to be a wiser ROI to just cancel the whole thing, everybody get a few extra hours of sleep, and then we'll fuck with it tomorrow kind of sort of deal, right? There I go. I keep dropping the F-bombs when I'm not supposed to. Anyway, I digress. But that was in the way that Pajak was even taking into account cost, where he was using the maintenance schedules from the manuals of, and I think you were using a SCAG manual, and you were going through the maintenance schedule on it. And it was like, even if you're not having to maintain or replace tires at these frequencies or whatever, if you still account for the cost, then you're never going to be stuck in a position where you're surprised, right? And for me, that was one of those things where my head I was like, wow. And it also taught me is that I'll never be able to do that. And so I better make friends with people that do know how to do that because I can't do that right. And so even now in my own business, that's the whole reason I have a business partner is because I'm not good at that. I let him at least get an outline going and then I can think about some things that get missed along the way or whatever, A lot of the miscellaneous costs are my miscellaneous costs because I'm like, well, we forgot to order that reagent. And, I don't, that reagent was expensive. That's $100 a gram. We need, why am I still buying? This is what's crazy. At this point in my life, I should no longer be buying materials that cost $100 a gram. But somehow, some way, in a professional capacity, I'm still buying materials that cost $100 a gram. Make it make sense. I don't. It's a bad joke. Regardless. Anyway, I've talked enough. John, glad you're here. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Oh, Matt, thank you for having me on. It's so nice to actually catch up with you, meet Ryan and Ray for the first time. I trust me, guys. I've seen you. I've jumped in on the comments quite a few times, like watching you guys. I'm like, hey, how's everybody doing? Blah blah blah. And, throw my 2 cents in the peanut gallery. But yeah, man, going way back to that time, it's like, it's so funny. You're reminding me of like where we started from, right? Like opening up the manual and be like, okay, it says every 50 hours, make sure you're doing an oil change and everything. Dude, everything that I'm doing now is like rocket science compared to that. It's like, if
Yeah,
you thought that was granular, it's like molecular now. And is it absolutely necessary? No, but you could still be like horseshoes and hand grenades. But the whole reason I break it down that way is because it literally cracks people's minds. Something snaps and then they finally get it. So like what you're saying is, what does it cost me to open up the doors every day? What does it cost me to send these trucks out? How to operate everything? And, the combination of all the experience I've had in the lawn care community, as a lawn care operator, combined with construction and teaching, the experiences I've had in those, my whole history. I'm not going to bore everybody with it, but it's all compiled into this wonderful thing now. And even though I still enjoy my lawn care company because it's making good money and it takes care of my family, my real passion I found a few years ago was really helping others. And it's always been helping other business owners. I just didn't want to see them struggle and fall on their face like I've seen so many, like I've done it. I crashed
sure.
a
Yep.
business big time. Like, uh, it's like been 20 years now. That's crazy, but it.
This,
I just want to
you're
kind of
showing
help
your age,
people.
Pajak.
Yeah, shush. We didn't. Me and Ray were talking about that earlier. We're still young and we're still young bucks that could take on
Mhm.
all contenders, right? Body slamming people
Oh
from
yeah.
chairs and stuff without waking up and getting achy. That type of thing. We're still.
W- let me ask you this. So, for those of you that don't know, John Pajak, when I met him, he's another LCO out there, just wheeling and dealing and sending us updates from his beautiful F-150 on how hot and tired he was, like everybody else that posted video updates that it's 90 degrees and I am ready to jump out of my vehicle at 90 miles an hour on the interstate, but I'm not because I've only got 2 yards left and a thunderstorm's coming, or whatever the case may be, right? But okay, how did you go from there to now? John operates Profits with Pajak, and we've had Lushy on. Lushy has talked about how you do consulting with helping people take advantage of software, even like yard books, right? And getting that set up to work for you. How did you go from Pajak to LCO to a coach?
But I mean, going back to the whiteboard Wednesday days, it's like I've always had that heart of a teacher. I just didn't know what to call it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I always wanted to help people, and I realized I had this. I guess it's a unique skill set to where I could actually make numbers more interesting, and a lot of guys have that problem. So, you know, they they want to ignore it. They're just, they look at their numbers and it's just like, oh, that's a ugly thing in the corner, and it's actually kind of scaring the crap out of me. And
Mhm.
I'm the guy that goes, "Hey, come here, look," and I shine a bright freaking light on the monster that's hiding in the corner, and then we go look at it and we go, "Yeah, it's ugly. It's not as bad as we thought it was, but it's still ugly. We got to take care of it." And it's only got 2 arms and 2 legs, so we could just grab a bat and go smash that thing over the head and kill it, and then the monster's gone, right? So
Mhm.
we just bring daylight to the problems instead of keeping them in the dark and worrying and being fearful. It's like, hey, let's I'll work with you. I'm going to walk with you together. I'm going to hold your hand. We're going to go beat that monster up together. Then we're going to go sit down, have a couple beers, of pizza, and we're going to fix your business. We're going to make it. My biggest thing is to make sure that all the blood, sweat, tears, and years that you've invested, you want that to be profitable. You want that. You don't want to sit there at the table looking at your wife and your daughter. And I mean, this is me talking right now, but I don't want to look at them and go, I don't have money. I'm killing myself working. Why aren't we making money? I'm busy all the time. It's like, no, no, no. Many, many years ago when I failed my first business, which was just Johnny Boy Mowing. Okay. This is back in like 2000 or something. It was really early on in the 2000s. But I was working for somebody. I was their lead guy, and then I thought I could do this myself. I'll make more money, blah
Mhm.
blah blah. Didn't realize, you had to actually have some business savvy, and I was killing myself and not making any money. So I ended up that business crashed. I sold off stuff. I was lucky enough to sell off equipment and the accounts that I had to where I just had a little hole to dig myself out of. Um, and then I kinda took a break for for a lot of years. I went off, it was so bad that I actually went and I was a teacher for a while at a college, and then I got out of that and went into construction, and then they pulled me out of the field and started having me do estimates for big construction jobs. So, it crazy things started happening to where those jobs where I was doing all the estimates and stuff kinda dried up, and then I was back in the field, and I had people that were kinda neglecting their duties. They almost killed me, and I thought, I never got killed or almost killed mowing lawns or spraying lawns, so I decided I'm gonna start this over again, and I talked about it with my wife, and I said, "You know what? I'm gonna do it right this time. I've got it. I know what I did wrong. Let me learn from it." So, again, starting the business up again, which is Turf Tamer Lawn Care now. um, and I named it that because I thought maybe I'll just build this up and sell it later. It's not gonna be Johnny Boys, you know? But, during that whole process, it's been more of, uh, I learned how I paved the way, and not only that, but, talking with friends and colleagues like yourself, Matt, we, forged ahead, and it's like, "Okay, well, this is where I'm really good at. Let me help others and just say, hey, listen, I've already trailblazed this. Come on and follow my path, and you could excel too." So, long story short, that's kind of how I'm at where I'm at now.
Let me
Um,
let me ask this. So when okay, if you had to take the top 3 things in Ryan and Ray, feel free to interject with anything you think of in one of these categories. If the top 3 things where you see people making the most egregious mistakes when it comes to the finances of their business, what and I'm not even going to say finances. We'll just say understanding your numbers. What are the top 3 most egregious mistakes you see?
the absolute first one that's at the top of my list all the time is the owners don't pay themselves. And I'm talking like
Mm,
they're just like thinking, okay, whatever's left over is what I'm getting paid.
Mm.
You have to pay yourself something. I don't care if it's minimum wage. You have to allocate that because the problem is, especially when guys are starting out, and even I mean, I've encountered quite I've helped hundreds of businesses with this, and there's people that have been in business for like 20 years, and they still don't actually pay themselves the uh, uh, an actual acceptable wage. They're just like, well, I just take owner's withdrawals, and I'm like, yeah, that's fine, but you should allocate at least some kind of pay scale for yourself. because the method I like to follow is I'm always trying to replace myself. Like when we first start, like it doesn't matter if you're just starting out or if you've been in business for years. We wear a lot of hats. I've been in business for uh, this company's been in business since 2015, and I still wear a lot of the hats. I'm always trying to replace them. I'm always trying to take that hat off and put it on somebody else. If I put that on somebody else and say you're going to take my place, and I'm not allocating any money to myself. I'm not paying myself either an hourly wage or a salary or whatever. Can I expect that person to do what I'm doing for free, for nothing, for possibly some profits if you're not calculating it right? Um, so that is probably like the most glaring thing is when an owner doesn't value themselves enough to even pay themselves as an employee. Um,
That
like this. Go ahead.
I'm just gonna say, and Ryan and Ray, I know y'all may or may not have opinions on this. I assume you do, but I think how much of that is, and I think there's a lot of ways that you can phrase this from a psychoanalytical standpoint, but how much of that is partially even an imposter syndrome, right? Where you feel like I didn't do a good enough job, therefore I'll take it when I need it.
I don't know. I mean, I think that there's some of that, maybe with some martyrdom that comes along with it. Like, hey, like
Mhm.
I am the business, and I think John probably sees that. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but that whole thing of moving past that, you as the business owner are the business, right? Like the sooner you move past that, and if you want to be a solo operator, that's not to dig on those people. I guess it's the point that uh you have to pay yourself something. You have value within the business. Hell, the government even thinks you have value within the business, and there's a whole reckoning there. Um, but I also think too that you have to take into account the fact that uh, what you bring to the business and everything like that deserves a salary, deserves to be put into the financial outlook and the financial records of the business, so that whatever happens, right, that somebody can look at that and say, oh, okay, I see what this person does here and I see the value they bring. What would this person make if they were, just like what John was saying? I think that's a really important point. But long and short of it is that I think, is it imposter syndrome? Maybe a little bit, but I also think too that a lot of people just are in love with the idea of owning a business and will do some pretty rash stuff to be in that role and to be their own boss and everything like that, including shortchanging themselves on the financial side. So
That's a good point.
I don't know. I mean, there's I think there's some of that psychology that is involved with all of it. Ray, you're a solo guy. I mean, what you have to pay yourself, right? There's nobody else to pay.
Oh, yeah. I pay myself, and I got into business specifically, number one, to take better care of myself, and two, to make damn sure that I would not have to go hat in hand to my father and say, "Hey, father, uh, I'm short this month. Can you slip me 1,000?" And by the way, things like that would happen when I was somebody's employee. And when I went into business for myself, I made darn sure that that wasn't the case. You better believe it that I planned on paying myself after all other expenses were accounted for. I mean, you better believe it. And so I take a slightly different view to this, in that I don't have the martyrdom. If anything, it's like, you know what? I'm suffering enough for this money, so I darn well had better get the benefit from it. There.
I was gonna say, I for the longest time it was I'm lucky I started paying myself out of the gate. That was the way I learned to do it, and so I was super fortunate I did that. Now I critically underpaid myself for a long period of time, with the anticipation of pouring all that extra money into the business and leveraging it to grow as quickly as possible. And I think what I ended up doing was keeping myself in such a constant state of turmoil. And Evie just made a point right now: over promising commitments to bad projects and clients. I By not paying myself enough, I often found myself having to do that. And that created a whole nother cycle of psychopathy in and of itself. Right. And
Right.
I think
Matt?
part of it is that I kind of was addicted to that feeling of chaos. It was kind of self-imposed. I felt like it kept me sharp and on my A game, but in reality, I was just more addicted to the adrenaline and cortisol, and it wasn't healthy at all. I mean, it was you're honestly, you're a ticking time bomb at that point, right? And I think that's why I've had so many midlife crises. And I'm hardly 38 years old, so not for the wise.
Okay, Matt. Here's my point on that is, remember what I told you when I first met you?
Slow down.
No. I told you that for all intents and purposes, consider me semi-retired.
Yes.
That's how I consider. That's how I consider myself. Going into business for myself. I'm semi-retired. In other words, I work when I'm able to. I make the money. Otherwise, this is not really a grind. I'm not that guy that has 2 more freaking lawns to mow and a storm is coming. If anything, that's when I tell everybody, hey, screw off. Your lawn will still be there tomorrow. Don't worry about it. You see, John.
I love it.
Oh, no, John, in case you don't know, Ryan has a few words about my bedside manner. To say the least.
Terse. It can be terse and direct, and
that's refreshing, because almost everybody I know is too scared to say their feelings. And I thought in this world we're supposed to tell everybody our feelings so that we could really communicate. But when you could really tell somebody like, screw off, I'm going to come back when it's not raining, that's refreshing. That's I applaud.
Well, and at the same time, that translates into the people that I do work for now. They've literally called me and they say, hey, Ray, I knew we were planning on being here today to do the lawn, but it's like I've had a guy tell me, you know what, Ray, don't come today because the damn lawn is underwater. Come back another day when it's dry. And no, I've had people literally pay me that kind of courtesy because, hey, I'm upfront with them. I tell them, I put my mower on your lawn, and instead of the lawn leaving that smooth, fine finish, the lawn is going to come up in chunks. It's going to leave mud everywhere, and I'm going to create a mess that I'm going to have a hard time fixing, so it's best I not do it at all. And they say, yeah, Ray. On second thought, yeah, come back when the lawn's not underwater. I mean, and likewise...
Go ahead.
And likewise, it's funny you should say that because I have had to deal with ridiculous people, and my parting words to them are, I'm sorry, you are effing crazy, and there's nothing I can do for you. I've literally told people that, by the way.
I think that's a pretty easy way of getting out of the bad customers and overpromising.
I actually,
go ahead.
I had one client of mine that asked permission to have a birthday party for their kid on their lawn. And I said, "Am I that bad?" And they're like, "No, you just reseeded it, and we just didn't know if we could have anything on it." I'm like, "Yeah, it's your lawn to enjoy. I built it for you." And they're like, "Yeah, but we just want to make sure it's okay." And I'm like, "Yes, you could put the inflatable thingy on there. It's not going to be there for 5 days. It'll be there for 1 day. Have fun with your lawn. It's okay. You don't have to call me on a Wednesday night to set up something for the weekend. It's okay. You pay the bills. You do whatever you want with it. I will come and fix whatever gets messed up." How's that sound? So I love that.
John, number one, Go ahead, Demay. I cut you off. That was
I
my
was
fault.
just no. I was just gonna make a quick joke. I was just gonna say that, when Ray finally does become fully retired, his job will be he'll be a candy striper at the hospital. And he'll be the closer. He'll be the guy that comes in and says, "All right, it's all over. All we can do now is make you comfortable. Peace, been real." And then he'll just walk out. No,
Is Ray
like,
gonna actually
Wait,
unplug it?
wait. You know what, though, Ryan? I'm not that cold.
There's a
You
look
know
on
that. I
family
mean,
face.
I'm
he'll empty the
different.
bedpan. Sponge bath though, like
because
you don't need to be clean.
yeah,
He'll take care of that at the mortuary. I got to draw the line somewhere, pal. All right. Anyway, I
but
digress.
then, but you see, I'm honestly not that cold, and I'm not that mean. I mean, it's like
We know.
I'm a good guy.
But
I'm a good guy.
It's still funny picturing you telling someone that is terminal. Well, got bad
I'm
news.
gonna turn that.
Not going to make it very long. Y'all have a good one. Take care.
I'm gonna turn the AC down here. We get a head start on this, okay? All right. Anyway.
Yeah. For me, it'll be turn the AC down, and the next thing I'm going to do is I say, nurse, hey, when's this guy's next morphine? Get in here. I would be that guy. All right.
I need one too.
Yeah.
Or two.
By the way, I've
none
typed
for me, Matt. None for me. You know what that does to me. Ugh.
That button doesn't have 3 clicks an hour. It's unlimited, buddy. You just rolled 777s at the morphine clinic. All right, let's keep going here.
Click, click, click.
Okay. So number one, not paying yourself. Number two mistakes on not understanding your numbers. What is the second most common one you think you run into?
What level do you want me to go? Because I could do beginner, I could do intermediate, and I could do advanced. Because I've dealt
Let's do
with
all three.
companies.
Let's do all three.
Yeah,
Okay.
fuck yeah.
So if we're like the second one I see a lot is when now here's the thing, like I have this program called Budgets, Break Evens, and Bottom Lines, okay? And I see a lot of people that get really over leveraged with that. They buy machines that they shouldn't buy. They're not at the level that they'll buy stuff and it'll just sit. It's not making them money. And the thing is, and then they got to keep all the upkeep on it. They got the monthly payments, everything, and it's just like it's actually like a vampire that's just sucking their business dry, and it's keeping them. It's instead of helping them with like they think it is or it should, it's holding them back. And I've dealt with quite a few companies, like mid-sized to large companies, that for some reason I'm like, I don't. It blows my mind when I see a large company that makes these mistakes. And I'm like, how did you get so big and you're barely turning a profit? You're like at a 2% margin. It's just like ridiculous. Like if you guys, I mean, 2% is you're dead. Somebody
You're not going to make
trips
it.
and falls. You're not making it. I get scared when people are under 10%. When they're like 10% margins, I'm like, you might be going out of business slowly. You just don't know it yet. You know what I mean? Because
John, I call that the nonprofit org. I call that the nonprofit
There you-
org when somebody's under 10. All right? I mean, and that's the thing that I am most afraid of and aware of, because like I told you, I've seen some things in the business, and I've seen the kind of things that literally make me want to get out of the business because, John, I don't operate a nonprofit organization. However, the expectation among my peers is that I am nonprofit. And because their expectation is that I'm nonprofit, to answer your question earlier pre-show, this is not a pleasant place to do business at all. I don't enjoy it.
I agree.
When it comes to equipment, right? And I'll come back to that. You keep going, and then I want to circle back to equipment specifically,
because let's not just limit it to the equipment. Okay, it could be just about anything. There's been times when I've dealt with people that have gone and built a new shop, and they weren't really ready for it yet. And it's like, I understand you want to move into this. You want to, if you could afford it and you buy the land and then you're going to build on it later. Hey, that's an investment long term and things like that. But the point I want to really get to is I don't do debt, and I'm not trying to say like you it's just me, okay? I'm gonna tell you a dirty little secret here, okay? I'm gonna tell you guys. I secretly teach people without them knowing how to operate debt free, even if they do debt. Okay. And I encourage them to be able to put money to the side for the expenses. Like we were talking, like you mentioned it before, Matt, like about, like the repairs and things like that. It's like I help them get all set up. So it's like, hey, when that stuff happens, when the maintenance comes up, when the payments are due, all this, hey, you know what? We're not only going to figure out what your payment is and how to cover the payment for the month, we're going to talk about how to replace that whole machine and set money to the side and say, hey, you know what? By the end of the year, I want to get a brand new ride-on sprayer. Okay. We're moving up. Maybe I'm tired of dragging hose or whatever it is. Maybe our old one is, or maybe we're just expanding enough to where we need another one. It's like we will price our services so that we can go ahead and after X amount of time, it's not like, oh, it's indefinite. It's like, hey, during this time period, we are going to set this money to the side and we are going to purchase a new ride-on sprayer. And basically, I kind of trick them into having enough capital to just pay cash for the damn thing. So they're not
Hmm.
paying
Hmm.
all the interest and all that other stuff. So um, I think to sum it up and put it up into like a little nice little basket, the thing that I see a mistake that a lot of business owners make is that they don't figure for replacement costs and operational costs of their equipment and in their bigger assets.
All
And
right,
that goes many different levels.
number three.
Mhm.
Let's jump into number three. Kill point.
Okay. Marketing. Marketing, if you think about this, what's the lifeblood of our businesses besides the actual money, right? It's like, well,
Sales.
Sales and marketing.
we need sales. What goes hand in hand? It's not just like, hey, Ryan's not going to come up and be like, hey, dude, just I need $300. You're gonna buy this off of me, so it's like legit. Maybe I don't know. Maybe you got a blackjack in your pocket and you're going to smack a dude over the
Yeah.
head if he doesn't, buy your services, but for $300. But the thing is, it's like, how do people even know you're around? You have to have a continual marketing program, marketing thought process. Because just because, like, if guys buy a mower, right? They get their truck, they get a trailer, they buy a mower. You think about the prices these days. They could be 60K in the hole right off the get just with those items. And they're thinking, as soon as I buy this stuff, people are just going to know that I exist and that I do this service. So that's just not the truth. It's like, hey, I've done that in the past. I went out and bought, a new mower and my phone didn't ring. Nobody called me. Even though, when I first started out again, I made sure my truck had all the decals on it and phone number and website and everything. But the thing is, it's like that was part of the marketing program that I designed. It's like, okay, the truck is going to have something on it. I don't care. Even if you have a magnet on it, at least you're showing people that you're there. Uh, and having the money I would rather spend money on advertising, whether it be Facebook ads or Google AdWords or even old fashioned. And this is where a lot of my stuff comes from is I still send out postcards. I still do door hangers. I still do direct mail, but I'm a little bit smarter about it now because instead of like blanketing the entire town, I just go for specific neighborhoods. But it doesn't cost a ton of money, but it's still part of a budget that you should have. And it's like allocate that money and it's like, okay, I have a whole thing now where, we call them money levers and you pull a lever, it might be, sending out postcards or something, but I know what like the return is on those things. So if like we do a postcard campaign and we hit a specific neighborhood, uh, it might have a 1 to 1.3% return where we actually get calls and leads from that. And then out of those people, it's like, okay, well, now we just signed up, 4 new clients. But it's like, when you think about it, people get distracted by it and they're like, man, it just doesn't work for me. I've tried doing this, it just didn't work. You got to be consistent,
Yeah.
and it requires a little bit of money. But the thing is, it's like you know, it's almost like a slot machine, but it's almost guaranteed to win because I could put in like $10 or, you know, like let's just say I put in $150 for a campaign. I know I'm going to get that plus, you know, I might get 2 or 3 clients out of that, and their programs are going to be like $600 each. So that's $1,800. I put 150 in and I get $1,800 out of it. It's like a
That's a
10x.
great
It's
ROI.
over 10x. Yeah, it's a great ROI. And a lot of business owners, even if they've been in business for a long time in our industry, for some reason they're afraid of that. They think it's gambling. But when you really focus on that and you have a budget, you tell your money where it's going, and you say, "Hey, let's focus on our marketing now because we need more people. We need fresh blood. We need fresh money coming in." It you know, that part, it scares so many people because they just don't play the long game with it. And it's become one of my new favorite, besides all the budgets, break evens, and bottom lines, and be nerding out about how to get your pricing and your services profitably priced. Now the fun part for me is going out and like, all right, we're going to sell this. We're going to
Yeah.
make money.
Related to equipment, and I bring this up because I know that in this industry people become equipment junkies, right?
Oh,
And I get it.
absolutely.
It's cool, and there is ah, there's 100% that you can limit your ability to grow by not investing in equipment that is going to make your life easier or increase your production output, right? On the flip side is that anytime you run into something that's hard, you immediately go buy a piece of equipment that makes it easy, and but you don't necessarily have the work to be able to support getting it used and paid for in an appropriate amount of time, right? Do you How do you typically approach buying new equipment? Are you looking for a certain payoff schedule? Is there a certain do you want to be able to allocate a certain amount of cash up front before you do that? Is it allocated cash towards those specific projects? For, we'll say it's an aerator, right? And
Mhm.
okay, you have a new aerator is going to be $18,000. I have $24,000 of aerations on the books. Plus, I still have product costs in that, and time and labor, and so I'm not going to break even on it this year. I will next year, and then it won't be year 3 till profitable. Does that look good to you? What exactly? How do you look? How do you structure that?
Yeah. When it comes to equipment, I put an ROI life on it, not just a service life, because, you know, I still have machines that are, you know, 2016 that are still in service because we take good care of them. But what I don't want to get my ROI after 8 years, you know, like on a truck, you know. You look at a truck and there I saw, you know, there's 7-year loans now, which is stupid in my mind, right?
Hmm.
I know I will ruffle feathers here, but I don't buy brand new trucks. I buy the grandpa trucks. I buy lightly used trucks that are in fantastic condition, low mileage. You could still find them. My buddy Joe DePace, he helps me find these gems in the Midwest here. But anyway, the thing is, getting back to your question, like let's just say that aerator. If you like, most guys will go out and they'll get a loan on it, and it's, you know, 4 or 5 years, whatever, you know, for a $18,000 piece of equipment. What I do is I will budget for it, and I will say, you know what, I'm gonna take that and break it down into 3 years. So that $18,000 purchase, I'm looking at it and I go, okay, if I'm going to break that down into 3 years, that means I only have to pay $6,000 per year for that. Now, again, like I told you, I trick people into buying the stuff for cash. Okay. Like
Hmm.
most any piece of equipment that we are going to go out and buy, we will generally just buy it outright without any financing. I understand a lot of people can't do that, especially if you're in a hole and you're trying to get your way out. But what I do is I will look at it and I go, okay, in year one, it's going to be $6,000 for the actual replacement of that piece of equipment. Then I also account for the wear and tear, the maintenance, the fuel, everything that goes into it, all the little widgets and gadgets and nuts and bolts. I account for that. So that price, that $6,000 for that season, might actually I'm just going to put $2,000 on it. Why? Because maybe it's a gas hog and it needs oil changes a lot. Maybe the tines need to be replaced. We anticipate maybe a blown tire, something. Okay, let's just round that up to, we'll just say it's 8,000 a year. And that's how I break that down. So then if it comes at if it's, say we say that in the budget, we're going to allocate $8,000 for the not only the replacement cost of that aerator, but we're also going to take care of all the operational costs. Any additional insurance that it might add to our insurance, we're going to account for that. Maintenance, fuel, all the things I said before. And then it's like, hey, you know what? We work 2,000 hours out of a year, right? Maybe with an aerator, it's actually a lot less because you might only have like 1 month of like 160 hours of it actually being in service. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But let's just make the math easy in my head right now, if you don't mind. Uh,
Sure.
we'll, we'll say that 8,000, $8,000 that we have allocated. We'll say, okay, we work 2,000 hours in the year. And you would just take that 8,000 divided by 2,000, and it's like, hey, that's like $4 an hour, right? So you break it down into these, like, again, uh, I'm not this example, I'm not breaking it down into the microbial level or a micron level, but we're
Mm-hmm.
breaking it down very
Mm-hmm.
granularly, and that way you know what, whenever that thing goes out, it's like it needs, okay, break even cost for it, because I hang on, I forgot. We also have to not only add in for that, but we have to talk about, like, how efficient you are. Because it's not going to be running 8 hours a day. It's going to be like, oh, we got to drive to and from each place. So there's a little bit of windshield time. There's a little bit of inefficiency in your route, no matter how tight your route is. So we have to accommodate for that and be like, okay, well, I did a study, and this was backed up by another company that we had hired when I was in construction, and these people would come out and they were these efficiency experts, and they found in an 8-hour day, there's generally at least 25% of non-billable time.
Mhm.
So for every 8 hours, there was like really only 6 hours worth of work getting done. So but your guys are still out there doing work, right? So you gotta account for that. So there's like 25% of that we got to add to that four. Like if we're saying, hey, it's $4 an hour break even, well, we're adding another 25%. And then don't forget, we got inflation, right? I don't care what. I'm not trying to get political or anything, okay? It used to be I would usually do like a 3% every year for inflation. Unfortunately, over the past few years, it has been astronomical. And we're really creeping closer to, I did the last study I saw, or the last actual um, data I saw on this was 19.2% inflation. That's like what we've experienced. So that means, hey, you bought something in 2023 and maybe it's not a full 19%, but that same money you spent in 23 can't buy you the same piece of equipment in 24 or 25. It's going to be even more. So anyway, we do all those calculations. So now it's like, oh, this is actually, say, a $6 an hour piece of equipment, right? And I mean, I know I'm kind of skipping a whole bunch of stuff with a lot of nuances, but just to give you an idea. So like then you get like a catalog price for each piece of equipment, and then you just tally all that up. It's like, boom, you got your truck, your trailer, your whatever equipment you're rolling, and that becomes part of, your operational expenses. So
I think about it like on a um on my aerator. I would say a good day of getting hours on it would be somewhere between like 6 and 7 hours. Occasionally, you have the commercial property that you pull up to, and you actually put a full 14 hours in on it or something insane, right? But I can say I've only ridden an aerator 14 hours in a single day. a handful of times in my life, right? Maybe 5 times in my life have I done that. And then you vibrate for the next 24 hours when you get off of it too, right? So that's an experience in and of
Try to
itself.
fill
You
the fuel
just
tank and you're like, oh.
yeah, it's like motion sickness. It was being on a boat, for a long period of time, and you're waving while you're trying to pour that. Your hands are shaking. It's a bad gig. But that's a good point to account for the window time. And I know that even pricing lawn care, right? If you say you're doing 25,000 square foot lawns a day, and you are walking at a 1 minute per 1,000 square foot pace, and then you have your get there, your hose pull, and then your hose roll up, and say you average 8 minutes per lawn on and off. Okay, 8 minutes, you got 20 lawns a day, that's 160 minutes. You're talking about less than actual 3 hours of time, right? And in that 3 hours of actual work time, the great thing is that you may generate, we'll say like $1,000 or $1,100 of production that day. And then, okay, that's great, right? But then you start subtracting your material costs. You start looking at the inefficiency of how long it's taken you between stops to get there. It's like, well, it took me 10 hours to do this. I did just under 3 hours of actual production time. The fuck was I doing for 5 hours? Where did it go? Or 7 hours or 6 hours or whatever the number is, right? You start looking at that, and the number of times that I realized it, and that was actually before I went into my business myself. I was at True Green the first time that like I let that set in. I was like, man, I did just over 100,000 square feet today. It took me 10 hours. It was just over, 3 hours of work time or whatever it was that I was actually on properties. What in the hell was I doing? And it became like a game to myself to figure out how to get one between stops faster, right? And then get rid of that little bit of time that you would catch yourself killing time before you got out of the truck and started pulling hose, or after you got back in the truck after pulling hose, right? And so actually taking those moments to myself during the drive, and not when I got to the property, and then took 3 4 5 minutes to check my phone and fuck around and drink a bunch of Gatorade or whatever, but catch all that on the drive and really maximize the efficiency through my day, right? And it was one of the things I noticed, and that was where I started to learn how to become a better technician. Was all of a sudden a 10-hour day went to an 8-hour day, went to a 6-hour day, right? Well, unfortunately, when you're at True Green, that just means your goal goes from $1,000 a day to $1,300 a day, and now you're doing 27 properties a day, and it's like, oh, shit, why did I do that? But then I went to work at different companies, right? And I was like able to just get off early and enjoy the rest of my day at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and it was great, right? So, and I took, to me, that was one of the harder things that I felt like bringing on employees and trying to teach employees that specific aspect of it. Um, and I don't, this doesn't really necessarily pertain to the conversation, but I think anyone that's listening right now, it's those little efficiencies that account into your costs that have a real impact on your business, right? If you think about it, right? And this is a way that I think you can um, reward your employees, one from a work-life balance standpoint, and two from a revenue standpoint, right? If they're generating the same dollar amount in 6 hours of time that they are in 8 hours of time, why not pay them for the 8 hours of time that they got done in 6 hours, right? And then instead of them having to work those 2 additional hours, why not just let them go home and enjoy the rest of the day and have a life and a family? And when I went to work at Fairway Lawns, that was very much the structure of it, right? And and so I that was why I really blossomed as a technician when I worked there. It was because of that structure, right? And it really helped me hone in on that efficiency. And I felt like that structure worked well for if you had experience in the industry and you saw that as the company structure, it was easy to want to adapt to it. But trying to teach people that are green to the industry about that kind of efficiency and that is always something I really, really struggled with from a technician level standpoint. I don't know. Maybe that's
Oh
just
man,
me, but I struggle with that
I
bad.
think I think so, Matt, because you know, remember what else I also told you when we first met? I told you, Matt, that I am terminally lazy. Terminally. I don't want to hustle.
Aren't we
I don't
all?
want to work hard. No, I don't want to work hard. Those two concepts are repellent to me. Hustling and working hard. No. Bad words. Okay? Instead, my objective is do less and still get everything done. Overall, do less, but still get it done.
Well, that's why
I'm not
if
good at
knowing
that.
your production rates is so important, and
Mm-hmm.
as an employer too, for me, um, it's my job to make sure that the guys can get a route that's really nice and tight, so they're not all the it reduces their windshield time not only because hey they can get more done. We basically work 410s, and
Mm-hmm.
generally if as long as there's no callbacks and the guys are really doing their job, if they come in
Yeah.
and they come in an 8, I'm like, yeah, you're still getting no problem, perfect.
Yep.
And they love it, they hustle
You did your
through it.
job for the day. Yeah.
Yeah, they got through the list. They got, as long as, and I told them, I said, as long as we don't get callbacks, um, and you
We're
really do the
good.
job, you don't ghost people, you know, uh, you're good to go. And it does keep people around a lot longer. They feel appreciated, and it's like, listen, I'm not gonna say, hey, you know what, you're getting done way too early. I think we should increase your workload. It's like, no, that's the incentive. That the reason why they were getting it done, instead of they started flipping their mind a little bit, where it was like, hey, you know what, we could. I got this from uh, Mr. David Watkins, the turf nerd. Giving them a
David
little bonus too.
Watkins.
I love that man. He is a good man.
He
But
is.
Yeah.
He is.
he was years ago. He was kind of talking to me about that, and I said, you know what? I think I'm going to try to implement that a little bit more. Is having extra bonuses, but if it to make it easier on the guys and make it easier on myself because I lost technicians and I'm back in the field. I'm not going to say, oh, everything's great. I'm currently back in the field because of shorthanded. And the thing is, it's like, like what Ray's saying, I don't want to do I'm getting wiser, I'm not here to do all the hard work anymore. This is why we buy
And not only
equipment.
that,
This is why
John, something else just came to me is that eventually, in my final years being somebody's employee, what they had to do to me is they had to switch me over to salary. And do you know why they had to do that to me? Because I was also opposite of the, how shall I say, the typical 7 o'clock to 3 o'clock union mentality type person. Whereas for me, if something needed to get done, guess what happened, John? I
You get it
stayed
done.
and I got that effing thing done so that I don't have to deal with it tomorrow or on Monday. It got done. That was it. And it's like, and I had one manager cry and bitch, and I turned around and I told him, so what do you want me to do, jerk? You want me to, at 2:45, look at my customer and say, hey, I sprayed half your lawn, so I got to come back and spray the other half tomorrow? Hell no. Whole thing's getting done right now. That's it. You
I
know?
mean,
exactly. And
I mean,
I know I'm going off a little.
that's sure. But then that's just
I was just saying,
the whole thing is that get it done. And at the same time, do you think I would burn myself out hurrying, trying to beat the clock? No. Do less. Do less.
Yeah, one thing too is like I find when you empower your employees to give them, you could give them like responsibilities and
Hmm.
to make their own judgment calls. Be like, I give them the authority to like look at a lawn and say, like Ray, hey, you mentioned that it was underwater. It's like I don't expect, I don't want them to do that. I want them to be smart enough and have the knowledge to know that that is the wrong thing to do. I'm not going to have them go spray a lawn that's got an inch of standing water in it. You know, I'm like,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
you
No,
guys
no.
know better.
Yeah.
I'm not
Or
going to
Alright.
penalize you
likewise.
for that.
Let's ask this now. So we've kind of and I'll say is that everything we covered there, I am 100% guilty of to the
Me too,
most
buddy.
extreme degrees. And but let's also what do you see people do right?
Good answer.
I s- the this is for me.
Yeah.
My
Yeah,
question.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Yeah.
I apologize. I don't want to. I'm like sitting here. I'm like, oh, Ryan hasn't really talked that much. I don't want to step on any
No,
toes or
I'll
anything.
jump. No, I'll get in here. Go.
Yeah, but things that they're doing right, especially I think when they, going back to what I just said, empowering their employees and giving them responsibilities and the authority to do things that they know are right. I know that sounds really off the wall, but you know, you probably hear this all the time, like building company culture and all this other stuff. And I've even talked about it where it's like, oh, I provide my guys with free drinks and food and everything and the snacks, all that stuff. It's like, yeah, that's a kind of like a perk and everything. But I find it's like the respect. I've dealt with quite a few people that have like they changed the way that they treated their employees, and they changed their mindset because they were like, well, they work for me, they should do whatever I tell them to do. And yes, they need to do that, they need to do their things, but I find when you approach it with more respect, that's the thing that is keeping people around longer. um and it's incredibly expensive to go out and either headhunt or you know hire somebody new. You think about it, when you hire an employee, it is expensive. It's not really because of the wages, it's because of all the training that you have to give them. And it's like if you're trying to scale your business in any way, if you're trying to get to the next level so that you could step out of the field, or whatever your dreams and goals are, and you require employees to work with you, it's an investment. It is, if you have like every 2 weeks you have a churn, you're going to go broke because
Yep.
your productions are going to, your production rates are going to just fall off. You're not going to be able to service all the clients that you have, because you're constantly training new people, and if you can't keep them around, well, think of how expensive that is. You're driving around with it instead of it being in fertilizing, in our industry, you're going out there, it's usually a one-man crew, right? It's not like, oh,
Mhm.
we got a three-man crew like a mowing crew, right? Nobody does that. I mean, maybe if you have acreage and all that stuff, but I'm talking residential or even small commercial accounts. It's usually just one applicator. When you have to double up and like say when I'm driving, and my trainees and next to me, that's incredibly expensive to me because all that time that I am putting, that I'm making the investment, I'm showing them how we do it and how to do it correctly. Uh, but think about that, especially if it's the owner, that is incredibly expensive because what's your time? What is the owner? What's your time really worth? You're the one that, I'm still the one that brings in the business. I'm the one that talks to the people. I educate them, my clients and stuff. I'm answering the phones to answer any questions that they have. any concerns? Miss Herfnerbler's got a gray spot in her lawn and she's freaking out about it. And it's like, oh, it's probably this, whatever it might be. Could just be dollar spot, or it could be the dog peed over there. We don't we don't know for sure until I put eyes on it. But my time's more, it's better spent doing that and getting new clients in. If I'm constantly training people, that's good because I'm training them the way that they need to be trained properly. But at the same time, if I'm flipping a guy every single month, that's really, really expensive. So, besides the paycheck that the people are looking for, I find when guys are really showing they're investing in their employees, that's when they're showing that they're doing things, they're doing the right thing. Um, you take care of the people. What is it? The Ritz, not the Ritz Carlton. Is the Ritz Carlton might be, but it's ladies and gentlemen taking care of ladies and gentlemen. They're you're training them to, they're not peons, they're not disposable. You show them respect and you give them authority, and they're going to take care of your business for you. So,
John,
Great message.
I got to tell you
Mhm.
about one of the most disturbing calls I ever had related to that. What you said about taking care of employees.
Mhm.
And I don't know if I said this on air before, but I'll say it again in front of you. I got a call several years ago from a company that was seeking me as their employee. And I immediately asked a lot of questions. And one of the things that came out as an answer is, okay, I asked him, what happened to the person that I'm replacing? And
That's an excellent
long story
question.
short, long story short, John, and what made me nope right out of it is their answer to me was, oh, he's replaceable. And that at that point, I turned on that person. I said, you know what? Then if that guy's replaceable, then do replace him, but then don't think that I'm going to replace him. Good day.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, right, man.
Well,
Goodbye. That tells you a whole story. That saves you so much time. I'm glad, if somebody's headhunting you or vetting you or whatever, it's great to flip it on them, because you can
Oh,
tell
yeah.
a lot. There's times, I've done this, and this is actually something that I picked up because I read about it like forever ago, like 30 years ago, about Henry Ford. He would
Mhm.
he would literally sit down to dinner, and then when I do interviews, a lot of times I take people to lunch, and I just observe
Mhm.
what they do. And one thing that Henry
Uh-oh.
Ford would do, he would like put a ton of, he would tell the chef to make it super
yeah, make it
salty.
bad. Yeah, make it bad. See if he sends it back.
Make it bad for him. And then if the person would just go ahead and they started shaking salt and pepper on it without even tasting it, he knew all he needed to know, because it's like, well, you know, aren't you going to try it first? Aren't you going to see aren't you going to solve the solution, or, figure out what is going on before you start adding your own spice to it? Think about it this way. It's not just
And
about
likewise,
eating, right?
it's about judgment. And likewise, though, John, you'd hate to have me over for lunch. You would. You'd hate to have me over for lunch because.
Well, as long as you're not throwing hot soup in my face, I think we'll get along just fine, Ray. But
Yeah, I don't do anything. I do other shocking things. Let's put it that way.
put your toenails on the table, or I
No,
don't know.
never. Yeah, but then you see that's the thing, is that and likewise, yeah, I've gotten that kind of response from various prospective employers since becoming self-employed. I've gotten that kind of, and absolutely, I can flat out just tell them to their face, oh, I'm sorry, no thank you. I don't think this is going to work out. And I tell them, you know, you don't exactly understand who I am, do you?
Right. You know,
You don't
and
understand
you know
me.
what the thing is? It's not being conceited. It's like I think once you've freed yourself from the 9 to 5, it's super hard to go back. It's like
Oh,
almost
I'm
impossible. We're
unemployable.
like feral.
I'm
Yeah, exactly.
unemployable,
Unemployable.
John. Unemployable. I mean, permanently unemployable, and thank goodness I'm about to retire. Thank goodness, because man, I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
I think I, out of everyone on this panel, I am probably the most unemployable.
I you know what?
Yeah.
Maybe you are, but I'll give you a run for your money, Ray. I
I was gonna
guarantee
say,
it.
I think everybody
I-
on here is
Yeah.
pretty on the spectrum when it comes to unemployable.
yeah.
Deep on it.
I am still pleasant. I am very nice to people, but at the same time, I am not afraid to be like, sorry, you're just I don't like your face. I'm not working here. You know,
Yeah, it's-
Well,
it's
well, for
not
me,
as
it's not
petty
about
as that, but
it's nothing shallow. It's just I'm sorry, but I'm me. I have a sense of right and wrong, and that's that.
you're not gonna put your
Demand-
shackles on
That's
me,
it.
man. I'm an
Demand-
outdoor cat. I am not gonna get chained to the wall here. Okay, I'm gonna do my thing. I'm gonna strut around.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
gonna do what I do because I'm excellent at it, and I don't
Mhm.
necessarily need you to tell me how to micromanage, a TPS form or something. It's like get out of here with that.
Oh
I am a
Lord.
nerd,
Yeah.
but I am a nerd, but I am not that like corporate like oh you gotta have everything filled out otherwise we can't nah. I need to take some
Oh
vacation
Lord. Oh
time.
yeah.
You're gonna tell me I can't take my vacation time even though I've got stuff stored up? No, sir. I'm telling you. I'm not asking you. I'm just gonna go. Okay.
Ryan,
Don't call me for 4 days.
hosted an emergency press conference in the Discord the other day.
Oh God.
Can you explain to everyone what happened? And
I can't. I can't. I can't.
Just the first part, not the end part, but the first part.
Please for
Because
me.
I was so impressed at how you did not like it was so inspiring to me that I think I thought about this 3 times today, right? Because I was in a second 4-hour meeting, and the whole time I had to keep it on mute to just shut myself the F up. And how you were able to hear the critique and deal with it in such a way that was a positive outlet instead of just explain what happened and explain the critique.
I'll
you
just
heard.
tell I'll tell it in a sanitized but also vulgar way. How's that? That's the kind of stuff that makes me unemployable. It's I think for me, John, is it's in much more compressed in ways like that would out and out get you fired somewhere. It's not just um, long leading and repeated insubordination. It's just little snippets that you're just like, all right, get the fuck out of here, go. You're done. That's it. Like I can't have you here.
That's it, dude. I don't even know. I can't even handle a long-term investment with you. We just need to stop right now. I will have your money by the end of the day. Clean out your locker. Just get the hell out of here. I worked for.
I think
people
my
like that
problem
before.
is. Well, I think my problem is that I either never developed or I totally lost the filter that most people have.
Oh,
Yeah, I
Okay.
would
It's
too
agree
short, man.
that filter is just it's dissolved into a vat of some sort of highly aggressive solvent. It's in like toluene
Or acid,
or
right?
yeah, it's just
that
evaporated
stuff.
into the
That stuff
atmosphere.
from Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Exactly. The
Yeah.
goo. What is it? What was that called? The dip. It was called dip.
The dip.
The
The dip. Yeah.
The dip.
yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm thinking
this
that it's
day.
more like
Jessica Rabbit.
my
Total
filter.
baddie.
My filter
Total
went
baddie.
into a beaker of something called piranha solution.
Yeah.
Okay.
Here's probably what it was. Like the spark arrestor that's on like, the 2-cycle equipment. At one
Mm-hmm.
point in time, it gets garbaged up and everything, and some guys take it out and they'll clean it and everything. Ray just said, "Screw it," and jammed a screwdriver through that thing, and there's just nothing there anymore. It's just free flowing. So that's how
I
Ray
took
took
my
care of that
I
one.
took I
An
took my
angle grinder to it.
I took my Dremel to that bloody thing. Okay, gone. All right.
It's gone.
Oh yeah.
We have come up on an hour. John, seriously, thank you for tuning in and hanging out with us and listening to us and cutting up for a little bit here. Again, check him out, Profits with Pajak. He's on all your favorite podcast apps and flavors and all that fun stuff. Snort a giant line of them and go absolutely ham, and just reach out to him. How about that? Better than
Yeah.
Quit making effing mistakes in your business that are avoidable and just ask for help. It will be easily one of the best investments that you'll make is actually understanding your business, because then the decisions that you make with your business are going to be towards actually having your you are no longer working in your business. You can start working on your business and no longer let it just dominate and control everything that you do. So check them out, Profits with Pajak. We are going to go hang out with our patrons now. And one of the other things too is that we're going to work on the details of this, and I can't say exactly how it's going to work out, but we're going to try it. We're going to try and get Pajak at our meetup this year and do a little more classroom type structure there. I can't make any promises right now, but we're going to see if we can work out. If we can, we can. If we can't, we can't. But we will at some point. Even if we got to zoom him in at some point, we'll get it all figured out and make it happen. So anyway, but that's coming up. We're not ready to announce that yet. We'll open it up to the public. I don't know. At some point. It's still September. We got a month away. Outside of that, we're going to go hang out with our patrons now. Patreon.com/burner return. Wilson Miranda said, "I quit my job 4 months ago. Honestly, it's been rough. I'm still here at the job. Tilling a new dealership, just listening. God almighty, I do not miss that. Holy shit. Ugh. That makes me sick to my stomach. But I get it. I get it 100%. And I've been there and done that. And I don't miss it. Even though I still do work some late nights the majority of the time now. Anyway, I digress. We're going to go hang out there. We'll catch you on the flip side. You'll have a good one. Bye!